Well, hello and welcome to the B2B Growth Think Tank. Now, joining me today to talk business growth and to help out a fellow business leader on the virtual hot seat is someone with a pretty impressive background in growth hacking. Now, she is the Director of Digital Marketing at 10Web, which helps freelance developers and web and marketing agencies cut costs, increase revenue, find and manage more clients, secure client retention with super fast and high quality services, and find ways to grow their business with the help of growth hacking. And a big part of her success has come through identifying high leverage collaborations and partnerships with top industry influencers and companies such as AppSumo, Product Hunt, and WebARX. And now, as I am a huge advocate of the power of partnerships and collaboration, this is going to be a super valuable episode and a great conversation if you're looking for new ways to grow. So I am honored to welcome today's guest, and I'm going to do my very best not to mispronounce her name, and I hope she'll correct me if I get it wrong. But welcome to the show, Araks Nalbandyan. How you doing?
Hey there, Adam. Thanks for having me. I'm great. Happy to be here.
Now, did I do a decent job of the pronunciation of your name?
It actually, it was pretty spot on.
I must admit, I was nervous before this because I just wanted to make sure I got the name right. So, where's the name from? Where are you in the world?
I'm currently in Armenia,
Mm-hmm.
so it's 1 p.m. here.
Ah, awesome. So, tell me about the idea of growth hacking. Now, it's a term that I think people may or may not be familiar with, but how do you define growth hacking?
Yeah, I think it's quite an overused term as well, because a lot of people use it just to describe anything, even like standard marketing stuff. They can use it. For me personally, growth hacking is the ability to find quickly the ways to grow your client base, to grow your revenue, and growth hacking and testing and experiments is something kind of similar to me, because you can't do any growth hacking without experiments. So basically, for me, it's a way to, based on data, you do experiments and you find the best way for your growth.
And so how does that differ from, say, the traditional marketing approach?
Because growth hacking are quite quick. Usually in traditional marketing, we can see that making like ideas, validating them, and implementing them can usually takes time. But in growth hacking, you do experiments very quickly, and it can be not only on the marketing side, but also on the product side, so you can A/B test on product as well, not just on your, let's say, landing pages or your advertising. You can do it on the product as well.
Okay, so how about some examples? Like what does growth hacking look like in the real world? I know that you've obviously done it for your own business. You've also helped clients do it. So have you got a couple of examples that could bring some of this ideas to life?
Sure, we do have, like, there are a lot of industry like leader examples, like for example Dropbox, when back in the years, they added the free space referral campaign that if you were referring to your friend, they were getting a free space. It was like, it's one of the traditional examples of growth hacking. For example, in our case, we've recently experimented something that helped with our upgrade rate, because we do have 14-day free trial, and we experimented giving 2-month free to the users that have visited the checkout page but haven't checked out in 15 minutes. And it's been like a very recent update, but it's been there for 2 weeks or so, and we see quite great results there. But it's all based on data again, because we saw that most people that are visiting checkout page, they were upgrading within 10 minutes. So we decided to kind of decrease the churn rate of the checkout page, and came up with the idea, and seems like it works.
Yeah, because I think that a lot of people may well think growth hacking and think it's a way of just generating new clients at scale and all that kind of thing. But actually, I think what you're referring to there, and some of the definitions as well, is that it's not just on the front end. It's where in the business are there leverage points that can be used. And sort of parts along the buyer journey and the client journey and the experience of the customer and the client and all that kind of thing? Are there those points within a business that you can insert some form of, I guess, growth hack, for want of a better word of describing it, that will help the business to achieve some form of growth, whatever that objective is? It could be revenue, it could be reduced churn, it could be lifetime value of a client, all that kind of thing. Because I'm not sure if you've sort of had the experience, but a lot of people don't necessarily think of focusing on the growth on the current situation that they're in, or the current clients that they have, and actually that can be one of the biggest sources of growth if they have that decent client base. Is that something you've seen?
Well, yes, I mean, I completely agree with you. It especially works in the B2C market because the word of mouth marketing works quite well in the B2C market, and the more satisfied clients you have, the better you will be able to implement different hacks and get more.
I've lost you.
Hello.
There we go. I'm not sure, I lost you a little bit there. So, we're not live, so that's the good thing about it. So, why don't we? Actually, I'm just going so the edit can be done. Why don't we take it from that sort of question of, whether it's just the.
Yeah.
Where was I going? Yeah, let's go from there.
Okay. Yeah, I completely agree with you, especially when it comes to the B2C businesses. When you're targeting your B2C business, your clients can be a great source of bringing new clients to your business. Word of mouth works greatly when it comes to B2C businesses more. And the statistics show that when your clients refer to different clients, they used to have lower churn rate, the conversion rate is higher there. And when you focus on your existing ones, you can just do different hacks that are very well known, like referral campaigns, affiliate campaigns, or something like that. Or you can come up with something fresher and help them to spread the word about your company and get you more clients.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about advocacy, isn't it? It's about sort of providing that customer experience, and I'm seeing more and more about the importance today of customer experience in terms of the growth of a business. I've had people on the podcast that talk about this. Colin Shaw, for example, the whole sort of idea around customer experience as a serious growth lever. And I think that if you want to term it under the growth hack umbrella, I guess that could be considered one, but that whole sort of thing is a lot more sort of in depth and requires a lot more sort of, but again, it's looking at data, it's looking at behavior, it's looking at how people interact with your service, your product, your business, all that kind of thing. And then considering ways in which you can maximize the value of each interaction and each client within your business. I think we don't often look at things in that way. I don't think we sort of look externally and go, right, how do I get my message out more, rather than looking at how can I improve the existing sort of situation in a business? How can I improve the way that my experience is received by my client or customer? And often that can lead to a huge uptick in growth.
For sure, customer should be at the center of your company's attention. I don't consider it more as a growth hack. It's more business decision, business vision. But you should always put your customer first and be customer centric. No matter how big your company is, you need to take a look at your product from customer side.
So, I mean, if people are thinking growth hacking and all the rest of it, are there any kind of common mistakes that you find that people make when they start to consider the idea of growth hacking, and maybe some ways to think differently?
Yeah, I think especially at the start, it's quite hard to validate the ideas. I don't know if you've read the book by Sean Ellis. It's called Hacking Growth. There is a way of scoring your ideas before implementing them. It's called an
Mm.
ICE score. When you like, it's how efficient, how effective is the how effective will the experiment be, how confident you are it will work, and how easy it is. And then you calculate the average and you see how do you want to experiment it or not. Usually we used to take like the tasks that were had 8+ points, the average. But at first, when you're just starting, it's quite hard to evaluate the ideas, how effective they will be, how easy it will be when implementation, especially how confident you are that that idea will work. Of course, if in the company there is like well established like product management team that they can do customer interviews, but it's more in like more developed companies. But when you're just a small business or a startup just starting, it's more difficult to validate if the idea is really valid and you should test it or not.
Mm.
Sure, for that you need to have data, but you also need to understand the market well. That's one thing that I've noticed. And the other thing is not testing right, not leaving the test for enough, not having enough traffic to test the experiment and see if it works or not. Um, yeah, probably that's
Yeah.
the global thing is that you need to have a great data. You need to have well structured reports where you can track everything, where you can see everything, and based on that, only based on that, make your decisions.
Yeah, because I think that it's kind of like thinking of it like you are always innovating in a business, and growth hacking is a form of innovation. And there's some well-known models of innovation. There's books on innovation. The Lean Startup is one that comes to mind. They have their own model, that kind of thing. I've had Dr. Roxy Mooney on talking about innovation specifically around sort of healthcare innovations and things like that. But it's all about, what is it, the desirability, the viability, and the feasibility sort of stages and all the rest of it. And while we don't necessarily need to think about that level of complexity, I guess, with everything, it's worth having that kind of model in mind in terms of, right, I am going to look to do something that is going to be a growth hack, for example. And it's like, what is my hypothesis? Is there the desirability for this in the first place? Like, do I have product solution, product market match, for example? Like, that is the thing that I first of all need to test. Then is it sort of, solution, is the solution right? Is people actually paying attention to this? Like, is it something that is going to be viable? And that's where you need to go out and do the testing that you refer to. And it's all experimentation. And I think that is something that can easily get missed. I think that we would necessarily go into something like this and get very outcome focused rather than process focused when it comes to this sort of thing. Is that an observation that you've made?
Yes, I completely agree with especially with the experiment and the outcome part, because like when implementing, when it comes to the growth hacking and testing something, you can just quickly do like let's say an MVP version and just do the test. And if it works, if the outcome is great, then you can just make it better and better and better. But just focus on the outcome and based on data.
Yeah, and I think that one of the things that we don't necessarily sort of think about is when it comes to this, it's kind of like you're not trying to have the complete end solution when you're doing this sort of thing. You are literally going through the test, iterate, repeat, optimize process in that way. I think that can be quite difficult, especially if you don't, as you said, like have the whole product marketing teams and you're maybe sort of a little bit small. That comes with its own advantages because you are a bit more agile with that. You can just try things. If you're, you can go to your network, you can go to your LinkedIn network, you can go and just talk to people very, very quickly and just kind of ask them questions quickly and sort of find things out. And one of the best ways to test and validate an idea is simply come up with a powerful offer and something that is going to be very much irresistible to the end user or the client or something like that, and just simply ask them, is this something that you'd be interested in? Like, is this something that would work for you? Can you see this fitting into your business, your life, wherever that may well fit? And that is a way of testing. Like, that can be done very, very simply.
Yeah, I completely agree that you need to, as you said, you need to do the interviews. Even when you are small, and you can do like interviews with your customers. Let's say you're just starting the business and you don't have enough customers to do the interview. LinkedIn is a great way. Different Reddit threads are a great thread to find people. Different conferences are a great way to find your people that maybe your potential customers. Just go and talk to them, understand them based on the data you collect. That's what we did as well. Like a couple of years ago, we went to different Facebook groups, to LinkedIn, found different agencies, we talked with them, we created our customer persona based on that research. You can even find what words they are using, where they are hanging out, which can help you both for your marketing activities as well as your product development.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's all about sort of first of all, understanding your client, your customer. What is a potential unmet need that they are facing? That's one of the key things that you're wanting to look for. Do they have an unmet need? Is this growth hack going to help this unmet need? And it may well be something that they are wanting tangibly at the end of it, or it could be, as we've covered, a part of the experience that is missing. And that can lead to, increased retention and high lifetime value of a client, that kind of thing. That's another way of considering it. And ultimately, it's asking yourself the question: is there, what's the unmet need, or what is the problem yet to be solved? Like, what is the problem that they are facing? What is the jobs that they need to have done? I think that's a Steve Jobs thing. Like, what is that? And you're constantly trying to uncover some of those things. And if you are then going to sort of come up with a program or some form of growth hack solution, how does that fit in to actually dealing with that? Because come up with an idea in isolation, and you've got no idea.
That's how we came up with one of our main product features. It's the automatic 9+ page score optimization. When we started interacting with different agencies, different freelance developers, we saw in different groups that one of their main problems with WordPress, or just for their clients, for generating more leads, were page speed, like not loading fast enough, not ranking well enough, and it took a lot of time. They were complaining, they were like asking advices, and at that point we understood that we need to create something. It's not a growth hack, but it's like because it's a quite big feature in our product, but it's how we came up with the idea of creating something like that, and then our engineering team started working on it. So it can be.
Well, that's kind of the beauty of thinking about this. If you're looking for growth hacks and you're looking for ideas for that kind of thing, you'll actually often uncover some other pretty good gems. It's kind of like, I don't know if you ever had this situation. It's like you've lost something. You lost your keys, you lost something, whatever it is, and you're searching around your house for this, and then all of a sudden you find the shoe that you lost a week ago. It's kind of like that situation. It's like, I wasn't looking for that this time, but oh look, there it is. And you needed that shoe. It's very valuable because you get one wet foot and one not. But it's the same sort of idea, and it's always being curious. And I think that putting your customer, your client in the center of everything is key. It's thinking about them, asking questions about them, like their situation, their challenges, all that kind of thing. So and what I'm interested to hear about is, because I'm a big advocate of the whole partnership model, the collaborative model, all that kind of thing, and how that fits into sort of a growth hacking strategy, and maybe some of the examples of the things that we mentioned in the intro, and maybe some of the things you've done in the past.
Yeah, sure. I think I probably mentioned AppSumo the most because it brought us the most clients. But when we were doing AppSumo, it wasn't for. It was just in the beginning of the company process, like about 2 years ago. We just launched like 6 months ago. We had some clients, but we wanted more clients, especially not for revenue point, but for getting people to do experiments and to validate what we should keep in the product, what we should change in the product. So that was our mindset when we're going to AppSumo and launching our product there, because we obviously the price that you give the product at AppSumo are quite lower, and we do provide quite high quality product, and it's not that easy to provide it at that lower cost, but it's worth it because you get a lot of clients, you can do a lot of changes to your product, your marketing, to your customer support, you understand better, and you can do experiments. That was the
so just before you sort of go on, because there may be some people listening to this and going, what the hell is AppSumo? Now, AppSumo is it's for sort of SaaS platforms and obviously apps and stuff and that kind of thing. But I kind of liken it to a Groupon type offering for SaaS products and things like that. Is that fair, or have I got that wrong?
Yeah, I think it's quite fair, but it's most of the deals on AppSumo are with lifetime access, which again is a great point that people like to buy and test the product even if they don't need the product at the moment. And the great thing is that a lot of people there are quite early adapters and they're quite tech savvy. So if your clients are tech savvy people, it can be very helpful for you.
Yeah, and I think the key thing to understand is that AppSumo have the audience. They have people that, companies like yours, people that have these sort of early stage SaaS products, they have the audience, they have the distribution, and they have the type of audience you've said, like the early adopters that are going to get in and use these things and sort of, test them and break them and give you feedback and all that kind of thing, which would be incredibly difficult to just go out to the open market and find those, with your own sort of marketing and that kind of thing. And am I right in saying that as you say, you give away sort of lifetime access and things like that, and obviously maybe more attractive pricing, and obviously AppSumo sort of take part of the sale and all that kind of thing, but it's been worth it for you guys? Is that correct? Is that right?
Yeah, for sure. Again, not revenue wise, but for getting a lot of clients and getting a lot of feedbacks, and based on that feedbacks we have improved product a lot, and I mean a lot, and we've come up with new features. We've been able to do different experiments, and it really helped for further developing our company.
And even if you're sort of like listening to this and thinking, well, I'm not doing an app or anything like that, like it's the principle behind it that it's the same thing. It's kind of like if you are launching some form of new service, or you are just looking to grow and expand, this is an incredible way of thinking about how to almost overnight potentially gain access to exactly the right kind of people that you are looking to attract, without needing to go and sink, potentially millions. These kind of companies, they've spent millions developing their platform, their audience, their network, all that kind of thing. They've spent money on advertising. It's kind of like they've got, and obviously this is a model that AppSumo run, but there are just other businesses out there. They'll have what's known as sunk cost assets. They've spent money on generating leads. Yeah. Most businesses, they have a pretty average lead conversion rate. I mean, anything from sort of like 4 to 6%. Yeah. But that means if you've generated and spent a lot of money on, say, 50,000 leads, you've only ever converted 4 to 6%. There's a lot of sunk cost in the business there. So how can you go and find another business or potential partner with something like that sunk cost asset that they have, and partner with them? As long as they have a complementary product and it's something that you can then come to an agreement with and say, look, this is the ideal audience for what we do. We don't compete, all that kind of thing. Why don't we do something together and go that way? And if it's someone with 50,000 leads, then you need a small percentage of that. That's why I think they are one of the biggest growth hacks that you can sort of think about.
Yeah, for sure. And the main thing for me is that at the beginning of the business, sure, we all do business to earn money, but at the beginning you should focus on getting the product that will get you money later on. You need to, even if it's not like a software product, can be like anything, you need to be ready to not earn money for some time, but get more clients. So you can get feedback and then you can get more money.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously one way of doing it. And in terms of, kind of going, right, I'm effectively going to launch this service, offer, business, almost like a lost leader idea at the very beginning in order to generate the base. And then you're sort of thinking, right, where are those growth hacks within my existing base? Like, how can I encourage the advocacy? How can I get people to recommend? How can I blah, 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 that kind of thing. And it is an investment. It really is an investment at that point. Now, you may well be able to do things where you will generate revenue. You will, be able to do things at the beginning. Maybe that's what you can do. However, it's not always the only way. And as long as you've got that strategy in place and you've got, say, the capital that will allow you to do that, it's one way of doing it.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. So, I mean, if somebody's thinking about partnerships or collaboration or anything like that, are there any sort of I don't know, tips that you can give people in terms of how to find the partnerships, how to approach them, and then how to manage them?
Yeah, first of all, just take a look and deep dive research and find companies that you really want to work with. That companies, first of all, you need to take a look if the company has the leads that they will provide you, they are the leads that you are seeking for. First of all, you need to have your ideal customer. You need to see if your ideal customer matches those leads. And the one thing that I would like to mention as well, that a lot of companies they pay attention to the quality of the leads, but they rarely pay attention to the company image, because now you're a small company, but you want to grow, you're just starting, and you need to start thinking from the beginning of which companies you partner with. What are their reputation in the market? Just think ahead and just check the company very well, just search and see what people talk about them in the forums, take a look at different review websites, just deep dive and see what's the company's reputation, because you are tying kind of your name with that company, especially when you're just starting. A lot of people will remember you from that part, and they will associate you with that company.
That's a critical piece of advice that I think that if you are thinking around this, that you really do need to consider. It's not a short-term hack, really. It's a longer-term hack, for one of a better way of thinking about it, because it's not only that your reputation is being kind of tied to that company, it's also that you will be because it can work the other way. If you're recommending other businesses and that kind of thing, it's like you need to put your client again at the center of it, and you need to be asking your questions. Is this a reputable company? If I was to send my clients to this company, would they treat them well? Would it reflect good on me? Because the spread of bad messages on every social media site, every review site, everything like that. There used to be that old adage of there's no such thing as bad publicity. Well, I fundamentally disagree with that these days, because if you screw it up and all you're doing is getting negative review, it's going to hurt you. That is not good publicity.
Yes, for sure. Nowadays, with the speed and speed of the information, it's you need to be very careful, because whatever, just even for a minute, there is a post on the web. Even if you delete it, it will stay still there, and it will pay a lot of it will be very painful to get out of it later on. So
definitely. And that's why things like case studies, testimonials, reviews, all that kind of thing are vital today, because that is the voice of the customer. And that's a growth hack, if you want to think about it. Like, how can you improve your conversion rate? Well, increase the number of success stories that you get from clients, increase the number of testimonials, increase the number of reviews, and build that into your process, because I don't think necessarily people consider these sorts of things as they're sales enablers. Like, they are pieces of sales content that can be used throughout different parts of the buyer journey. And the small incremental improvements on each site, each part of that journey will ultimately compound into bigger growth. And maybe there's things in there that can again, you're finding out about what people think about you, like their troubles, their struggles, what things were like, what their situation was before, how it felt to go through the process of solving the problem, how things are afterwards, all that kind of thing. And it's a storytelling process. And we still, no matter how evolved we are, we relate to stories. Like that is what we relate to. And that's a huge piece in there. So really, really interesting sort of points and thoughts there. So what I want to do is sort of move on to today's virtual hot seat. And what we'll do is have a little look at this challenge that has been sent in by a listener. And today's virtual hot seat challenge is coming from someone that's a solo consultant. And what they're saying is that I'm experiencing a challenge where I'm doing different things for different clients, and the clients are random and they're not in the same vertical. My question is how to address this challenge when my network, which is referring clients to me, exists in multiple different verticals. So what are your first thoughts when you hear that?
Been there, done that. I worked agencies, and that was one of the most annoying things for me personally, that you work with different companies in different fields. Actually, it's better to try to focus on less. Like if you are the one who's getting the clients, if you're a freelancer or an agency owner, I would suggest eventually to go with like 1, 2, or 3 segments and choose clients from those segments, because no matter how hard you try, how big is your company, it's very hard to like do e-commerce, do real estate, they're completely different fields. Each field requires different approaches. So at the end, I would suggest to choose path, choose which one you want to go with, where do you have most experience, and just have ground rules for each one. Just have knowledge for each category of the client that you're working with. If you go all over the place, it will always be hard to have enough knowledge. I've done a lot of work in different agencies. I've done e-commerce marketing. Now I'm doing startup marketing. It's all very different. Sure, there are techniques are same. You're setting up the Google Ads the same technically, but there goes so much things there that you won't be able to be very good at it if you don't focus on at least at max 3 different fields.
Yeah, and I think that sort of reading into this, I think that is what they've identified, and they are wanting to go into it. And I think that first of all, the thing that came to mind was, well, you're obviously delivering something that's valuable because you're having people in your network refer. And that is always a good sign that you deliver value and that there is, it's a validated offer. It is something that people want and all that kind of thing. And you're obviously doing a good job of making it easy for people to refer you. Now, obviously, we don't know how many referrals they're getting and all that kind of thing. So I think to sort of consider the root of the challenge, I think it's the first thing is all the things that you've said is have you actually sat down and gone, this is where I want to specialize? Yeah. That's the first thing to consider, because unless you know what that is, you cannot then start to almost educate your referral sources in terms of the kind of clients that you do your best work with, because there's sometimes nothing worse than sort of receiving a referral and knowing it's completely wrong and then having to have that sort of awkward, I don't know if this is the right person, but there's a great referral source. I don't know how sort of how much social capital is sort of in this and all that sort of stuff. So I think it's important to really sort of think about that. And once you've got that, one of the things that I consider doing is just sort of contacting all the people that have referred to you in the past and just simply having a conversation and sort of, just saying thank you. There's the first thing. Thank you very much for sending me these referrals. They've been fantastic. One thing I just wanted to let you know is that I am focusing the way that I or the direction of my business. So I want to make sure that the referrals, if you're continuing to send them, I want to make sure that I'm going to be able to do my best work for them. So here is where I am. Like, that's something that you can do. The other thing is making things very clear on your marketing, your website, everything that you sort of put out into the world, that is very, very specific on who you accept and who you reject. Like, accept is one thing, but often we don't put the kind of characteristics or the, I guess, the things that you would reject in a client. Like, it's not always upfront. If somebody is just, for example, if they are a startup business and you only work with established businesses, like, you would reject a startup business. A business in the first 2 years of their existence, for example, like, that is something you would have to reject, because you may know that over time you've not been able to get the same level of result potentially that you can with others. It's just an example. It's not saying that you should never work with startups, but it's one of those examples. I mean, does that sort of bring anything else to mind? Have you sort of seen things like that happen and been through a similar kind of exercise?
Yeah, basically what I wanted to add to what we just said is, when choosing like what companies you're working with, what fields you're working with, always ask yourself how scalable that field is. Let's say in 2 years and 3 years, how many clients, customers will you be able to have if you go with this direction and not that direction, and keep that in sync with your own goals, and choose where you want to go.
And the last thing that sort of comes to mind for this person is an idea that may or may not be appropriate, but if they've got a pool of people making referrals, then it potentially means that you've got a group of people that you could also bring together, and whatever you want to call it, a community, a mastermind, a referral network, whatever it is. And if you're the one at the center, I mean, I call this, as part of my process, the network maximizer, but it is where you're the one that is sort of like connecting. So not only are you potentially going to generate more revenues for yourself, more referrals for yourself, but you are also you put yourself in the leadership position of then connecting all of your other referral sources. But if you are now looking to go in a very specific way, you can get very specific with the kind of verticals or the referral sources you've had in the past that you invite into that. And maybe you do something as simple as a Zoom conversation once a month, once every quarter, whatever that may well be, where you just discuss things that are going on in the business. What are you looking for help with? Are you looking for things, that kind of stuff? And you're the sort of connector between that. And what that will do is that will position you as that leadership role, and you will ultimately, I've found more people will start sort of reaching out and connecting and referring and all the rest of it. But then you're not keeping it to yourself. My philosophy is a rising tide lifts all ship. So
we're also
can you do something like that?
And there as well.
Absolutely. So yeah, I mean, there's some sort of ideas, and I think that the core one is you've got to make the decision yourself before you can even start to accept or expect other people to be only sort of referring the right kind of people to you. And then you have to take the leadership role in actually educating and talking to people about the things that you do and the kind of people you help and the kind of results that you actually help them achieve. And that would be one of the first two steps, and then maybe considering the idea of that sort of referral network, that mastermind group, whatever you want to call it, because that could be incredibly powerful. That could be the only marketing or sales or business development you ever need to do, because it's that powerful. That is a growth hack, by the way. It really is. So thank you very much for that. I do enjoy doing these and sort of bouncing the ideas. So I hope that has been helpful for not just who sent this in, but also everybody listening. So before we go, I want to ask you a little bit about 10Web. What is 10Web? What is the problem it solves? And all that sort of stuff.
Sure. Thank you. So basically, what we do, we are an automated WordPress platform. We basically try to automate all the necessary aspects that the agencies, freelance developers, have on their daily manual tasks and make them focus on more like their business growth while helping automating different aspects of website development, website management, and website optimization. As I've already mentioned during the talk, one of my personal favorite features is our automated 90 plus page speed optimization that just optimizes your websites with just one click, and you get very high page speed score. Their clients get more higher rankings, more clients, and your websites, your clients' websites will be hosted on TenWeb, and our platform is our servers are on Google Cloud, so the hosting is quite fast, quite secure. And the other thing, if you want to build a new website for your client, you want to experiment. We talked a lot about experiments. We've launched about 6 months ago AI website builder, where you can get a website by just copy pasting a URL and getting a copy of your website of a website without copying the code. So you have a template. Infinity template that you can do A/B tests on and see what works for your clients. It's basically we're automating that processes for agencies, for freelancers, so they can just focus on their business growth and get better results for their clients.
And it's interesting. So this is something that you provide to other businesses, agencies to implement for their clients, right? So it doesn't necessarily, does it go to end users? So that can be obviously bought directly, or?
We do have free plans. We do have one website plan, free website plan, and 10 and more website plans. And end users can, if they are tech savvy and they prefer WordPress, they can use it as well. Our AI builder is quite easy to use. You just, as I said, copy the URL, or even in the migration, it's quite easy as well, getting 90 plus page speed score. And it can be very beneficial for end users as well. For end users, it's quicker and it's easier, and it makes WordPress less scary if you are not a developer. Say. For agencies and freelancers, it's more like efficient and more time-saving to use TenWeb, so they can focus on more important things like growing their business, communicating with their clients, and things like that.
I think what I've found interesting about that is the conversation we had around the whole partnership and the collaboration and all the rest of it. Like, this in itself is an example of a partnership model, because you could have taken this to the end user and that would have been potentially a slower burn trying to convince end users. But what you've done is you've gone and found where there is a pond of hungry fish already existing, and you are partnering with the owner of that pond, for want of a better way of describing it. And therefore, I mean, I'm making an assumption, but the sort of the model that you operate, are you doing it in terms of almost like a licensing piece where they buy access to your platform and then they sell seats on each one, or they charge? Like, how does that model work?
Yeah. Basically, we charge them for the number of websites that they have, but how much they charge their client, it's all up to them. We give them access to our TenWeb dashboard, where they can give access to their plans. Soon our user management will be live, so they will give access to different clients to their own website. But how much they charge their clients, it's all up to the agencies. They can decide that.
Yeah, and it's I mean, if you just think about that for a minute, and again, it's sort of like coming back to the growth hacking idea as well. It's like you could find a client, for example, for your TenWeb, which would be an agency. Now, that agency could have 100 existing clients.
Yeah,
like that is potentially instantly revenue for your business.
Yeah. Yes, for sure.
By helping them add more value to their clients. Now, not every client will, not every one of those 100 are going to necessarily come on board with it. But even if it's a 10%, a 20%, 50%, like that is really powerful for you as a business. And it's a smart model because you haven't had to sell to each of those individual clients.
Yeah.
And you don't have to deal with the the fulfillment of it. You don't have to deal with any of that. It's kind of like, well, this is how we then simplify our model to allow us to hack growth. And I think that's a great example of, really, it summarizes the whole conversation, I think. And it shows that you live it, not just talk it. So it's fantastic. So if people are interested, if there's an agency you're listening or a web developer, what's the best? 10web.com, is that right? Is the website?
.io.
.io, 10web.io, if you want to go and check it out and have a look. Reach out on LinkedIn.
Yes, they can always reach out on LinkedIn to me directly. They can always talk to our support team via chat. We do have 24/7 live chat support with the real agents. They are always fast.
Awesome. And yes, I will leave the link in the show notes, because we won't ask you to spell your name if they want to go and find you on LinkedIn. But yes, we will do that. But it's or spell your first name. It's probably one of the few. and 10web. So it's ARAKAS. ARAKS. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now you can see why I was nervous about pronouncing it. So it's been a great conversation. Thank you ever so much for joining me. Is there any sort of final words of wisdom, any thoughts, anything that I haven't asked you that you wanted to sort of cover off before we say goodbye?
Yeah, I basically would like to suggest, give an advice to everyone to just always pay attention to data. Never forget about data, and do tests for sure. That's one of the main things where you can actually hack the growth.
Definitely. And maybe we should all start going to work in a white lab coat just to remind ourselves of that. So thank you very much. This has been a great conversation. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I hope everybody listening has too. And have a great rest of your day, and we'll speak soon.
Thank you.